I'm my brother's keeper. I'm my sister's guide. Standing here together with nothing left to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame. We're the healers of the heart.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to My Other's Keeper. I have some fun guests. I've got Mary and I've got Mary's mama, of whom we can, there we go. We can see from there up. Now we can see all of you. There we go. So, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. You've had an eventful day.
I've had an event. The last hour has been eventful. The rest has been sleeping.
I haven't gotten a nap in yet today.
Oh, gracious, yes. Yeah, no, what Mary is referring to is Crystal and I went out for supper. And hello, Wounds to Wisdom, and hi, Crystal. Glad you're in the kitchen right now. Anyways, so we went out for dinner. It's now coming through her headset and through her phone, and we're getting some echoes here. So, all right. Anyway, we went out for supper. I was backing out of the parking lot to go to get home and get everything ready, so Mary didn't have less than 3 seconds to get on. And I was backing up and I'm like, okay, Crystal, which direction do we go? That way or that way? And she's like, we go, and I heard crunch. Oh man.
Oh no.
So I pulled forward, got out of the car and looked, and I had backed into a little Impala. I'm in an SUV. The Impala is not a little car, but it's little enough. Anyways, so I backed into it, and I just saw at first smudged paint. So I figured, okay, I just rubbed paint off. This is all good. I looked at the car. I went inside to the restaurant again, and I'm like, okay, whose car is this? At the moment, they didn't really have a whole lot of patronage. So I went to each table. I'm like, do you drive this vehicle? And no. So I went to the owner. I'm like, okay, do you know whose this vehicle is? And they asked, which one? Okay, so we pointed out, oh, that's our cook's car.
Oh no.
I'm glad I'd already eaten.
Well, not only that, you've been helping a friend move is what I was really kind of talking about too, is that you've been helping Crystal. So all of you got to be tired.
We are. Fortunately, though, there was no major damage. There was a crack in the bumper. The top of the bumper has a split. But we gave each other our information and took photos and all of that other stuff. So we'll be good. And she assured me later, she's like, don't worry, everything is good. We're good. I'm like, okay, thank you. Oh, so how's your day been?
It's been uneventful. Except for just, relaxing, and we were going to go out, but we were like, I don't think ice on the road is the best thing to do. So we had freezing rain. There was thunder and lightning last night.
Oh no.
And there was freezing rain, and I went out, and Josh was like, yeah, he had a chiropractor appointment this morning. And he said, I don't know what it looks like outside. And I opened the door going, no, I don't think you want to go out there. There's just sheets of ice.
Exactly. Yeah. In Canada, we would recognize that as a curling rink, because it would be a sheet of ice with like little pebbles of rain on it. Was it a little bumpy? Or was it?
No, you couldn't see it.
Oh, it was black ice.
I mean, my mom put salt on and you could hear the things cracking. And apparently we have snow out there now.
Okay. Yeah, it's too cold.
Doesn't know what it wants to do
for salt. Yeah. No, on the roads here, where in the town where Crystal lives, the roads are pure ice, but it's too cold. The salt won't melt it. Wow. So they have to put gravel and sand down just for traction.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's give it about 10 or 15 degrees higher, we can put down some salt and get rid of some of it. But
yes.
Nope, it's darn chilly.
Wow.
Yeah, it would be probably somewhere close to minus 16 or 20 where
Wow.
you are, like in Fahrenheit.
Yes.
We're
So
31 degrees, so I don't know where
But
that is.
that's
it
about
feels like
that's right at
18 or
about
something.
freezing level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mama. What were you saying?
It feels like 15 degrees colder than that, it says, because of the wind. It's very windy.
Absolutely. I could handle okay, I don't speak Fahrenheit, but I'm gonna try. I could handle minus 10, but as soon as you add wind to it, it feels like
Yes.
minus 40,
Right.
and that just it's the wind that goes straight through your bones. It's not
Right.
so good.
Right.
She
And
used to live in
Teresa, where are you at?
She used to live in
Sorry?
Tupper Lake, and it got below 50 in the like.
Oh, wow.
But that was only once a year for a day or two. It would go down to 50 below.
Where is that located?
That's a little bit south of Canada up in New York State.
Tupper Lake.
Is
It's
it
up
in a
near
mountain
Lake
of some
it's
sort?
up near Lake Placid, if you know where that is.
Oh, I do. Yes. Very, very
Yes.
famous for its skiing.
Yes, right. And there was the
Absolutely.
Olympics there in the
Yes,
1980.
there were. Yeah, I remember
Excuse me.
that. I
Yes.
remember it well. Okay. The poor kitty. Crystal's like, I'm trying to be quiet. Cat, there's food in your bowl. No, don't be sorry. I'm just laughing. Because yeah, they can't. Can you guys hear her at all?
Not really.
No, I don't
No,
hear
exactly.
anything.
I don't
They
know if
can't hear
Mocha's in the bedroom. It's her birthday today, but I don't know if she's in the bedroom.
No,
But
she's with Josh.
she's with Josh. Okay.
Okay.
She's just
Okay.
chilling on her birthday.
That's good. Did she get a cake of any sort?
No,
She got
Oh.
she got some apples. That was her extent.
Apples. She likes apples.
Yep.
Yes.
She likes apples
Okay.
and celery, and
Celery, but
she'll
not
have a banana,
cucumber.
but it has to be on a plate.
Yeah, it has to be on a plate.
Yeah. Well, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. Right?
Yes.
We can't help that she's fancy.
No,
So yeah, she's a vegetable terrier, that one.
Yes.
Yep.
But she's not a big fan of cucumber or lettuce. No,
Those don't
she'll
have a lot of
take it
taste.
and then I'll find it somewhere buried.
Yep. Yeah. So tell me about 2013.
Oh
What
my.
happened? Oh, is that good, huh? Okay. So what happened?
Well,
in
January
2013?
started out fine,
yep.
Okay.
but then February hit.
Well,
February just gets everyone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
2012 was the year that my dad was diagnosed with dementia. And
Oh,
so that started things. We got Jordan in 2012. He came home in July of 2012.
yeah.
And we also decided that the school that Christina was going to was being difficult, not only for her,
Oh,
but for us. And we
okay.
decided to do something through what's called Connections Academy. And Mom, you're tilted. Oh, there you
No,
go.
she's good.
Well, now better.
Have her homeschooled.
Yeah.
And so we did the whole online thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was used to Josh's that if you're thirsty, that means you have your something to look at your sugar numbers. Christina, the prior 3 or 4 months to that, went on Abilify. And Abilify is a weight gainer, which she was quickly taken off of that very medication. But in the process, she was hungry all the time. I just remember going, you just ate.
Yeah.
How can you be hungry? You know what I mean?
I'm currently on Abilify. That's one of my many meds.
Yeah. And so she was hungry all the time.
Yeah.
And we had also had her tested the previous year, and she had a marker for diabetes. So the doctor said not when she's going to get diabetes, but not if she's going to get diabetes, it's when.
Yeah.
So we had taken her to the urgent care. My mom was there with me, and we had taken her to the urgent care to get tested or for something else
Mhm.
totally different. And the doctor said that this could be a reason why. And he wanted to test her sugars. And he tested her sugar and it was 350.
Wow.
She had had a soda in the room prior to that. Remember, Mom?
Yes.
She had had a Coke prior to that, which probably raised her sugar, but shouldn't have been at 350. And so the doctor just looked at me and said, you need to take her to the closest emergency room ASAP. So we
Right.
thought that her doctor was in Coral Springs, Florida, so we should go out to the Coconut Creek or the Coral Springs Hospital, which I wish if I had known he wasn't complaining to come out there, we would have gone to the Margate Hospital because it would have been a heck of a lot easier to go back and forth. So by the time we got to the hospital, it was at 400. And
Right.
by the time we got upstairs to be admitted and everything, it was 12:30 at night.
Yeah.
And the nurse just looked at me and I said, well, what's the diagnosis? Oh, she has diabetes.
Well, I was
It's like,
just looking up. I was just looking up what 300 milligrams per deciliter, and in Canada we measure it at a different, like Celsius and Fahrenheit, same
Oh,
idea, different
Yeah.
number.
yes.
So in Canada we would say 16.7, which is decidedly high. It's more than twice as high as what it should be.
yes.
So yeah.
And so Mom left. Josh came out with some stuff. I had worked all day. And so I felt like about as miserable as a parent as you could get to get me. And I'm thinking, I have an autistic child. Now you're going to put this on top of me.
Yeah.
And we spent 4 days in the hospital with a service animal. I never left her
Mhm.
side the entire time I was there.
Yeah.
I remember in the middle of the night, one of the nurses, I guess it was sometime, it was surprising that there was an actual service dog in the room. And I remember the door opening at one point and Jordan just growled, which was not something he did at all very often. But it was
Oh.
just like, why? You know, why are you opening the door? She's in a strange place. He doesn't know. So a lot of times when the nurses would change shifts, I would make sure that they would allow Jordan to sniff them, especially if they were coming in to administer meds. They would
sure.
sniff them so that Jordan would get to know their scent and know that they're okay. But
Yeah.
you're just going to open this door. I mean, she was opening it really creepy to see a dog. And I'm like, why? And remember, Mom, there was even that dog. There was a therapy dog that came around.
Oh, yes.
And Christina went out and it was another lab. So we were in this place for 4 days with an autistic individual
Wow.
and these nurses that were wonderful. But this the nutritionist was just, she scared the living bejeebies out of me. She scared it out of Christina. She was just, at one point, one of these, I think it was just like a care nurse that came in and just pulled her aside and said, you cannot do this to these parents.
Mhm.
Because I was just, tears were just coming down my face because she was just, and you shouldn't do this. And I was like, you know, it was horrible. I said, she just put, you cannot do this to these parents. This is just, you can't, you got to stop. And she like backed off a little bit, but it was just like, I felt horrible as a parent. And
Well, yeah, you're not trying to abuse your child by over sugaring her, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, Mom, I mean, Fridays, if she was tired and going home and Christina wanted McDonald's, she'd stop by and get something.
Yeah.
You know, not to make her feel terrible or not, you know, my
No.
mom was just tired.
Right.
And she
For
thought,
sure.
well, maybe I shouldn't do that when we were tired. You
Well,
know,
and in the future, maybe don't. But at the same time,
Right.
when you don't know, you can't do something that you don't know, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
come on now, people.
yeah, it was,
Yeah.
they wouldn't even let us leave the hospital until we knew how to do everything and we could administer everything. And it was just like, it was difficult. And we got
Yeah.
her through that. And then, of course, that changed my schedule because I had to literally wake up at 3:00 in the morning every morning to test her sugar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And,
Makes sense.
and then she had to have a certain amount of carbs before she went to bed. My brain was just like exploding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to work and my mom was at home. And I remember this was probably about a month afterwards. And
Mm-hmm.
Christina is just having an all out meltdown. My mother
Oh,
calls
yeah.
me and she's just like, Mary, I don't know what to do with her. And I had said, God, when it's time for me to leave my job, you're just going to tell me.
Absolutely.
And I hung up the phone. I want to cry because she's there. Christina's just losing it. She doesn't know what to do to handle her. And I just heard this thing that says, God saying, you need to leave now.
Yeah.
I thought, but how can I leave? Josh was on disability. I'm the only incomer. How can I leave? I can't leave. Mary, you need to go now. And so I literally had to walk out of my job. I said to my boss, I love you. I love my job. Not that I love her. I love my job and I enjoyed it. But can I go home today? And then I will come back tomorrow and I'll finish out my 2 weeks. She goes, Mary, I know what's going on at home. I will just accept your 2 weeks and move on. And that's what I did.
That's so
we
kind.
We didn't know the next month what my mother was going to have to go through with my dad.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She can tell that part.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, Mama blessed.
Yeah. Well, he had been diagnosed with dementia, but he was still able to work. And every month he would say, oh, I'll just work another month. He had his own business and he was getting by. And so then in March, right after, we're still reeling from what was going on with Christina, and he tore his rotator cuff.
Ouch.
And then he couldn't work anymore. But I think it was, in some ways, it was a blessing because, it forced him to quit. But then there goes that income.
Yeah.
And so...
and they couldn't repair it.
And then we had to prepare for surgery in April, and they couldn't fix it. So now
what happened that they couldn't fix it? Like what was wrong?
I don't remember what they told me at the time, but they cleaned out all the debris that was in there, and they made him comfortable. And since he wasn't going to work anymore, it wasn't a huge tear, but whatever it was, they couldn't fix. And so they cleaned it out. So he was not in pain, a lot of pain from it.
Good.
And he eventually got to the point where he could use his arm partially. And unless he needed something off a top shelf or something, that was the only time he had really trouble with it.
What sort of work had he been doing?
Pardon?
What sort of work had he been doing?
He was in pest control. He loved to work outside, and he sprayed people's lawns. He had his own business.
Yeah.
He had customers, some of them that he'd had for 20 years. He knew their kids' names, their dogs' names,
Oh, he was amazing.
Yeah. He just was a small pest control company, but he had loyal customers, and he was loyal to them, and they were loyal to him.
And that type of job is really important. I mean, really.
Well, especially in South Florida.
Keeps families healthy.
Yes. Yeah. So he had to stop working, and then we fortunately found someone to buy the business for a much smaller than it was really worth, but at least we got something out of it.
Yeah.
But then, so we had his tear in March, and then in April we had the surgery, and that didn't work. And then in May I looked around and I thought, I can't stay in this house and try to take care of it by myself and take care of him.
Well, before you go into that, because in 2009, we had moved out of the first place that Josh and I had ever been in to a place that we found on the internet. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, fourplex.
Fourplex, yeah.
In Coconut Creek, Florida. And we had found that place and we moved there. Well, there was a place next door that they had put on the market from 2011 that every contract that went through had fallen through.
Oh no.
And it was a lady who was she was in and out of town, in and out of international, and she had taken it off the market. And we had gone to the pool, come back, and the real estate agent was there. And I said, you know what, has this one ever up and running? She's still interested in selling it. She said, well, possibly, but she's really taken it off the market. I mean, it's just every contract has just fallen through.
Yeah.
And we told her the story about the fact that what had happened with my dad and my mom and everything. So they worked something out. And originally we had brought my grandmother, stubborn Scottish woman, and my uncle to the house to look at, because we thought if we could move them there, because mind you, while my mother was dealing with my dad, she was also going out to Coral Springs, which was 15 minutes. So she would leave work. She'd go to the store. She would do whatever, bring the groceries. My uncle didn't drive, and bring them out to her mother, check on her mother, do all this kind of stuff, take her to doctor's appointments and everything like that. And it was just like, it was unbelievable, all the stuff that was happening. And we thought if we could move them next door, at least I could check.
That would be amazing.
Yes, I can check on Nana. We can make sure. My mom then we started looking for a place for her around the area for them to move in. And they went back after they looked at this place. They went back to my grandmother's house and just said, you know what? And I remember my mother said she walked in and they said, he said, I think it was Nana. I think either Nana or Steven said, oh, we're home. And so she finally confronted her mother and said, if you're not going to want that place, I want it. But from somebody that, I mean, it was held for 2 years prior to us even thinking about moving in there.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know for a long time that it was for sale because it was on the opposite corner and we never went around that way. And one day, Christina was late getting ready for school. I took her to school because she went to school near where I worked. And I was just walking up and down with Jordan, and I just happened to walk around the corner and saw a lockbox on the door. And I thought, this would be wonderful for my mother, And so, we didn't even realize it was for sale until we needed it.
God does that, doesn't he?
God does these things. It's amazing.
He sure does. Jamal, hallelujah. It's good to have you here.
And
So
welcome,
then
Jamal.
In May, I just realized I can't stay in this house with my husband. He's not able to help with things. And so I thought I've got to move. And so we decided in May that we were going to move and put our house on the market in June. And then, I mean, it was, we'd been in the house for 34 years and my granddaughter loved that house. We had set and all kinds of stuff in the backyard and all of her memories were there. And it was very hard.
She had a lot of meltdowns over it. And I would have had to take a leave of absence for an extended period of time if it hadn't been for the fact that I would have decided, if I hadn't left work, I'd had to just there's no way I could have taken care of Christina, taken care of them, packed up their stuff. And I remember my mother saying, there was times she couldn't handle anything. I had people come in there and furniture that they were getting rid of and box things up. And even the church people came in and said, this is the most organized move we have ever been in our lives.
Love it.
I had things boxed up and there was times she just physically and mentally couldn't handle it all. And so I would do that. Well, we got everything loaded in a truck. And then there was a problem with something happening with the paperwork and all that. Yes. So they had to stay with us. And at the same time, when we walked into this place, there was yellow walls. There's nothing wrong with yellow, but I mean, it was mustard yellow. And my mother,
Oh,
and it was just, it needed a paint job, you know,
yeah.
and we couldn't afford to paint it. And we walked in, and I'll never forget, my mother says, "We'll paint it in a couple of years." I said, "Mom, if you don't paint it now, it'll never happen." So I was
Yeah.
someplace, and I got a hold of the gentleman with either Home Depot, I think it was Home Depot,
Home
and I
Depot. Yeah.
mentioned that my dad was a retired veteran. And he said, I said, I don't know if Home Depot ever donates paint. And I'm thinking maybe they'll do a gallon or whatever. They
Yeah.
donated all the paint needed to paint that house,
Wow.
all the paint for all the rooms. So we had that. And then I got a hold of the reserve office in downtown Miami. It was
Well, my
Miami.
husband had been in the reserves for a
Yes.
number of years down there, so he,
Right.
they knew us down there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we had 12 guys. I had 2 guys in every room coming to paint the house, the inside of the house. They all had paintbrushes and painting them and everything like that. And,
Excuse me.
you know, it was unbelievable how much, you know, they were just, Mom couldn't believe it. I had guys in here peeling wallpaper off the bathroom. They're painting over here. They're painting over here. Church people were coming to paint. And I think it was 4 or 5 years later, she said to me, she goes, "Mary, I'm so glad we didn't wait to paint because it never would happen." I said, "I told you."
Oh, and one thing
That's for sure.
One
Yes.
thing we forgot in the middle of all of this year, my sister-in-law needed a place to live.
Yes.
And so we had to take her in.
Yes.
So that was another big change in our lives.
Oh,
She was living
wow.
with us, and she had some health issues. And so, I mean, that was all in the mixed of everything as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's Patty.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
She was living with us, and there was just an
Excuse
issue.
me.
And I loved her, but I loved her enough to say, "You're not bringing that in our house again."
Yeah.
And I called my mother and I said, "You better come get your," I actually called my dad, said, "You better come get your sister."
Mhm.
And she went in there and, you know, helped them out for a while and so forth. But it was the best. God provided a way for Patty to get clean and sober finally by,
Right.
you know, living with my mom and dad and
Yeah.
going in with a facility that could, you know, deal, you know, she could get healing from, because she had a really, really rough life.
Yeah.
And then we're getting done with them. We've got them moved in. There's boxes everywhere. And my uncle decides he's going to go in for a knee replacement surgery.
He decided, did he?
Yeah.
Well, he decided. The doctors told him that he should not go.
Really?
They all just told him he should not go in for the
I
knee
don't know that
replacement.
they all did.
A lot of them discouraged him from doing it because of his heart.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so
That's
he
something
went
you don't
through the
wanna mess with.
surgery.
He
He went through-
decided he was going to go in and get this done before we moved. However, because,
Thank God he didn't.
well, and I can't remember all of the timeline, but it all didn't work out that way because of the problems with the getting in and, you know, the paperwork with the title and all of that kind of stuff that happened.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that was in August, though. We had moved
Yes.
in, and then I think it was like a day or two after we moved in, I'm unpacking, and I took this bottle of heavy, you know, it was a big bottle of mouthwash, and put it in the bottom shelf in the bathroom, and it
Mhm.
fell right
Yeah.
right through the, you know, the floor of the cabinet.
Oh, I forgot
this-
about that too.
This puff of stuff came out, and there was mold back there.
Oh yeah, I
So
forgot
now
about
we
that.
had just barely
Oh.
moved in. We had moved in with Mary till we got moved in because of the paperwork hold up. Now we had to
Yeah.
move back over there with Mary because I've got asthma. I couldn't stay where there's mold.
Oh, for sure. Yes,
They
absolutely.
had to come and tear out the whole master bathroom.
Well, the vanity of the
And-
bathroom.
Yeah, the
Because it was
vanity,
separate.
part of the toilet. It had a separate little room for the
Okay,
toilet
okay.
and the shower. But that whole part had to be torn apart and mold eradicated. And it wasn't black mold though, so that was good. So
That's
now we're
excellent.
just
Okay.
barely moved back in again. Now my brother's in the hospital for his knee replacement, and he aspirated. He after the surgery, he was throwing up, and he aspirated it in his lungs and got aspiration pneumonia. Ended up in ICU, and
Oh
the
yeah,
end of,
yep.
end of August he passed away.
My dad ended up aspirating. He had very bad diabetes, very brittle, and he had vomited.
Yes,
And again, like your brother, he just
Yeah.
aspirated and ended
Yes.
up with aspiration pneumonia. They actually put him into a coma,
they did that.
and the
with my
doctors gave
brother.
him less than
Yeah.
50% chance of survival. So I
Yeah.
had to go out there and plan a funeral.
Oh,
Didn't end up having to plan a funeral, but my uncle's like, no, you need to be here. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they did the coma and everything, and they looked like he was kind of coming back. And
Mhm.
then my mom called me. Hi, Cricket. My mom called me in the morning, and she said, we're on our way to the hospital. His heart is racing. They cannot get it under control. And she went there. I mean, the hospital was like 5 minutes away. And so he was gone. And then we got the phone call that says that, he's gone. And now you have that time Nana was probably about 92. So you have a 92-year-old woman who's grieving the loss of her son.
And he
For
was
sure.
living with her, so now there goes her support. He was my support system, helping to take care of her.
Yeah.
So that was hard. That was very hard on her. So now my husband and I moved in with her for we ended up staying for 3 weeks because she was just bereft,
Oh,
and
for
so
sure.
I couldn't leave her alone.
Yeah.
And so now we've
No.
moved in with Mary, back out, the mold, the bathroom, we moved, back in with Mary. Then we finally get settled in our place. Then my brother dies. Now we're moving out of there again to go live with my mother for a while, till hopefully we stayed there for 3 weeks till she was finally able to say, well.
And this was February 15th by this point? Like it sounds.
This
Holy
was in
moly.
August, September. August and
Wow.
September time.
What a year.
And then in September, the coworker that my mother worked with, her mother died.
Yes.
And then
I knew when her mother died, I knew she and her husband were going to move to Colorado. And she and I had been co-workers in this office for 15 years. And so the thought of losing her was
That's
just,
rough.
it was because the only reason they were staying, she had a son and 7 grandchildren in Colorado. So they were she had said, when my mother passes away, we'll be moving to Colorado. So now I know I'm going to lose Irene. And so it was like my whole world was, my husband was my support system at home. My brother was at my mother's, and Irene was at work. And I felt like everything was gone.
Yeah.
Within a matter of a few weeks.
I was realizing that I was having something go on medically. So I was getting major headaches all the time and having difficulty and pain everywhere. So I was starting the road of, trying to get disability. And I mean, later on, being next door, when my mom would call me up and say, Mary, I need you to be here. The bus is here. But the aide isn't here yet. I need you to go out there and be there for your dad. I could go right out my door and be right there.
Perfect.
And it
was just the God just took care of us. He really did through all of it. It was hard, but he was taking care of us.
And then at the end of the year, we got sick.
Go ahead.
We all got sick.
Yeah.
It was like, let's just pile one other thing on top of it. I remember that Christmas, we were all sick. We were so glad for 2013 to be gone. Because we're done.
For sure.
It was just, from having to learn, when you have somebody with diabetes, but when you have a child who has autism with diabetes, it's a whole different animal. Because at one point they said to her, well, you could be exercising and doing this and then just pass out. I mean, she was afraid to exercise because they were like, she was going to pass out, or if you do this. And it was really hard.
Yeah.
For sure.
The first doctor we had was just did not have a good bedside manner,
No.
especially with children. She just was not.
Well, you just need to do it. I'm like, do you know what I'm going through? You know what I mean? It was horrible.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there going, when is this other thing going to happen? And it wasn't till the next year, it was 2014, when we had a fight on our hands with my grandmother to move in with my mom at that house.
Yeah.
And it was actually her brother-in-law that got her. I don't know what we would have done without Lee. I really don't. He got on the phone and just said, Nan, now stop this. We literally had to show up with a truck and with people, and my mother saying, grab your purse, and we're in the car, and we're leaving.
I gave her 2 weeks notice. I mean, it just didn't, although she swore forever that I sprung it on her, but I did every day for 2 weeks. I'd say, now we're coming on such and such a day, and we're going to move you. By this
she
time,
probably thought you were kidding until you actually did it.
Right. By this time, Patty had moved out. So now we have, I mean, this was another God thing. Now we have a room for my mother.
Yeah.
And, so it just, but it was very hard. She'd lived in that house for 50 years. So, I mean, it was very hard.
But it was
she couldn't stay there by herself. She had torn a rotator cuff in this arm, her right arm, and she could only move it halfway up. Her left arm was partially paralyzed from polio as a kid. So that arm didn't work well. And as long as my brother was there, she managed. And, after a few months, she would cry, oh, I can't do this much longer. I can't stand it. But then when it came time to move,
oh my goodness,
she didn't want to move, Well,
the irony.
Assisted living. Well, I took her to probably a half a dozen assisted living places, and she found fault with every
one of them.
Of course.
No, I can't stay here, and I can't stay there. And she really didn't have the funds to go, to have someone come in. And I did try that, and she found fault with everyone that came in. So we finally got her out of her house right after Thanksgiving, and just in time for Christmas, which did help some to get her over the hump. Because Christina was all excited about Christmas, and oh, Nana, you can help us decorate the tree. So it's but she missed her house, and of course I could understand. I missed my house after you lived
absolutely
so long.
But the irony about the whole thing is the place that she sat there thought she didn't want to move into, she ended up having to move into that house.
Living there, yes.
The one that she had kind of put a fuss about. Oh, I'll never. She had to move in there.
Yes.
And my mom had to be there at the house for her, and I had to take care of everything at her old house, pack everything up, go through everything, decide which stuff is coming, how to clean it out, all this kind of stuff. And I remember a very good friend of ours came to me and just said at one point, this is 2014, and he just came to me and said, you know what? You all could live underneath this house and it would be just fine. And I just looked at Josh and I said, Josh, I love him, but if he comes and tells me that one more time, you better run. And he went up to the gentleman. He said, you can't do this. And I just started bawling because I'm like, I can't handle this, having to do this. Because originally we were like, Mom, we'll do it together. But she needed to be there for my grandmother.
Absolutely.
So I was entrusted to kind of take care of making sure everything was packed up and everything. And it wasn't a small house.
No.
It was,
It was a blessing too, because when they did the inspection, all of her electrical had to be replaced.
Yeah.
Because it was 50 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And probably the plumbing too.
And they found a major plumbing problem, and they they had to get a jackhammer in the bedroom and jackhammer up the floor to fix the plumbing. It was so
Oh
if we
my
had even
word.
tried to move in there, there was like, I think we had to take something like $30,000 off the sale of the house to, to pay for all this stuff that the inspector found.
Yep.
And so we would have never managed in that house.
No, for
No.
sure.
And she wouldn't have been
would
happy.
She would have hated it even more because
Yeah.
I did talk
Oh,
to her
yeah.
one time about Chuck and I moving in there, and she did not want that at all. I
Mm.
want to my own house. I want to do what I want to in my own house. I don't want other people in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
So
For
I
sure.
mean, I look back at 2013 and I think it was literally one thing after another after another. There wasn't a break of dealing with emotions. I mean, it took Christina a year as an autistic child to finally, she was on her way home with Josh and she was hysterical in the car to actually grieve over my uncle.
Yeah.
Now, on a side note, I loved my uncle, but there were times in my life where he inappropriately touched me. And so my relationship with my uncle was not, I loved him, but I kept an arm length. But
For
he
sure.
was also my mother's brother, and she loved him. He was an
Mhm.
alcoholic, but he also
Mhm.
was a veteran and served in Vietnam. He also had a father who ended his life, and was an alcoholic as well. And a lot of it strained from all of that.
He
But
eventually got sober the last
yes,
years of his life.
Mhm.
which was,
Okay.
but it was still, I was in a different place. But Christina had a great relationship with him. She saw him sober. I never
Yes.
got to see that till the end. But she
Oh,
had this
no.
great relationship. And I just remember her in the car, literally screaming. She just came home and fell apart. But it took her a year to
For that
process.
just to all sink in and
Yes.
Well, within
wow.
1 year, she lost, where she was her early
Oh,
child
yeah.
in my home, my husband and
Oh,
mine.
yeah.
She lost that early childhood home. She lost her great grandmother's home. She lost her uncle. She was losing her grandfather to dementia. And
Mhm.
she had a lot to cope with, on top of having to deal with the diabetes in her own life.
Yep.
Yeah. And having my sister-in-law, rather, coming in and out of her life, making changes and in the family.
How is Patty doing?
Not well.
Well,
Not
she's
well?
nauseous a lot. She has stage 4 liver and lung cancer. And so
Yeah.
she's nauseous a lot. She doesn't feel like eating. But she does have a daughter who's fine, who's really come, really stepped up to the plate and helping her mom
Oh,
and
that's
cooking
so
for her,
good.
shopping and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's under
Okay.
home hospice care.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, she's been sick for a while, but
yes.
just really in this last little bit has really
Yeah, she's very tired. She
deteriorated.
takes a lot
Yeah.
of naps, and she does,
Yeah.
certain things she eats, she gets nauseous and doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So but she's so thrilled to have her daughter there helping her. Yeah.
I can imagine.
So, yeah.
And I mean, without that house next door, I mean, if my grandmother needed anything when she finally did move in there the next year, I could be there to help.
Yes.
Or if
Mhm.
my dad, the aide was coming, the aide didn't get there in time and the bus was coming. And
Mhm.
I could go check on her. And we had a baby monitor at our house and a baby monitor that she didn't know about at my mom's house. So I could hear. And I remember one time
Right.
I'm hearing this rook, pound, pound. I'm sitting there going, what in the heck is she doing? And I go next door and I just said, hi, Nana, how are you? I said, what is that noise? So I got my slippers in the dryer. I was like, I'm thinking, what in the heck is she doing?
What is she building?
Oh,
Yes.
it was she was
Oh, yeah.
she was a pistol.
Yes.
That's exactly the word that was coming to my mind.
She was
Oh,
absolutely
yes.
100% that.
Yeah.
I really wish that we had connection in the way that we have it all
Yeah.
now. You've started
Yeah.
something on our channel saying we are crocheting connection. We're showing up for each other. We're crocheting connection to make a beautiful tapestry of connection, which will turn out love and peer support. Because
Mhm.
if I had had something like this where I
Mhm.
could have been able to go
Mhm.
to, because I walked away from my job, I had
Yeah.
Christina,
Yeah.
I had, and it was harder to lose my grandparents' home than my parents' home because I had more memories. I had more,
Oh, for sure.
family memories there,
There too. Yes.
Yeah.
and
Where
I
you
think
went
I
to
was so
have fun.
tired. Go ahead, Mom.
I said, that's where you went to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think by the time we were done, I was so tired.
Yes.
We had come into that move with so much other stuff that had
Mhm.
hit,
Yeah.
you know,
And I think when you were helping Dad and I move, you were so busy focusing on Christina's grief over leaving it that I
yeah,
don't think you paid attention to your own.
no. And then you have to realize too, when you're dealing with a special needs child and you're dealing with all that, you can't just call up and say, can we have the babysitter come over? Because now I've got a child
Yes.
with autism and I've got a child with diabetes, and I need somebody to
Mhm.
know what they're doing.
Yes.
I need an adult. So I had to have
Yeah.
respite care come in and help. And we went over to my mom's house when it was all together. We spent a weekend together as a family there, and
Mhm.
then we left. Christina never went back. She never
Wow.
went back to see the house as it was slowly getting torn apart. My mother was having enough trouble.
Oh,
She
yeah.
never went back to see how it looked afterwards,
Right.
which I think was the best move. She remembered it
Mhm.
exactly how it was when it was all together and all of my
Yeah.
mom's stuff was there. I
Mhm.
remember one time when they were at the house, Christina had come over and there was the sliding glass door. She was just in a moment. There was a sliding glass door, and my dad and Christina trying to get in their house. And I just thought, she's not getting in this state. And my dad's holding the door, and I'm thinking, there's going to be broken glass all around me. Because I told her she couldn't go over right now because she needed to calm herself down. It was just, it was such a, there were so many changes, one after the other, and thank
Oh, yeah.
God for our family support. But I
Oh,
really
yeah.
wish we had something like the Lifeboat or your channel
Well,
or my channel to have that
exactly.
connection.
And we all know how well people with autism deal with change.
Oh,
Oh, my
Never.
word. Like, and then to have all of that. Like,
oh,
I could only imagine what was going on in poor Christine's mind. Like, Christina must have been, and then as her mom, you have to deal with your emotions as well as protecting your child and protecting your granddaughter and like all of
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if my mother had much time to grieve over the diagnosis. I forgot when the diagnosis came through for Dad in 2012. I don't know if she had much time to grieve between the dementia diagnosis, which is huge and that's
Oh, yeah.
life-changing,
Yeah.
Yep.
to what Christina's diagnosis was. We're not talking about a huge span of time. Do you remember
No.
when he was diagnosed?
Well, it was probably about 6 or 7 months. At first,
Yeah,
I just didn't believe it because he was
yeah,
functioning well at home.
yeah.
It was at his work because he had about 100 customers and he knew
Mhm.
so many details about these people that he didn't
Mhm.
have to look in his, book to find out who wants their lawn sprayed, but don't go in my screened-in patio. Who wants me to go in the screened-in patio? Who
But
wants me
leave
to
the
call
light
ahead
alone.
because the dogs are in the patio and I want to get them in the
Right.
house? Who wants this? So and so gets their lawn first fertilized twice a year. So and so gets it every 3 months. So and so gets it every 4 months. I mean, he had thousands of details about all these people in his head. And it was there that he knew something was wrong because he
Yeah.
had this book in his truck, but he never had to look in there. Now he's somebody's house and he thinks, are they inside or outside? You know, he had to go look back at their, sheet to find out
Mhm.
what, and so he was realizing something was wrong. Well,
Yeah.
before I did, because he would come home and everything, he was functioning at home. And my sister-in-law was there. I didn't realize either. She started helping him with the bills because he did the bills. And he was having a little trouble with that. So she jumped into that because she was like, I know how to do that. And so the
Oh,
two
yeah.
of them were taking care of the bills. I'm running around, going back and forth with my mother and my job and Christina getting her to school and back and forth. I didn't notice really at home. And
Yeah.
when he finally went to the doctor and got this diagnosis, I was in denial for quite a while.
I can
And he
imagine.
was still able to work.
Yeah.
He still went to work and he'd say, oh, I think I could do another month. And I think I can do
Mhm.
another month. So I wasn't really grieving over it until I started to see things like we'd go in
Yeah.
the bathroom and he forgot how to use the soap pump, or he couldn't figure out how to get the toothpaste on the toothbrush and
Yeah.
those kinds of things. When I started seeing that was when I realized this is real and it's
Yeah.
bad.
So,
We had moved them into that place, and my mom came home one day we had realized and we tried with Christina for the school, if we
right.
alternated and had us, it was too much. So even on a
Mm.
day when she didn't have to go into work, she took her anyway because it was just consistency.
Yeah, it was
And she
Exactly.
came home
Yeah.
and she said, I came home and found Abby. He decided to just put her outside. And she was sitting, thank
Okay.
God she stood, she's
yeah.
just stayed right
Just
there,
sitting
but
by the door waiting for somebody to let her
we
in.
just put her outside because she needed to go outside. So here, put her outside.
And then forgot about her.
Yeah,
Yep.
then forgot about her. Yeah.
Right. Right. Oh my goodness.
So we were
Oh,
fortunate
Wow.
too because he was in the service and we were able to get a few hours of aid help every week. And so, the aide would be there after he was in like an adult daycare during the day.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so when he came home, then the aide would be there for a couple of hours till I got home from work. And I was really glad to be able to work
yes.
because it was
Mhm.
my recharge. I went to work to recharge.
Yeah. Absolutely. When my
Yeah,
girls were itty bitty, that's what I did. I went to
yeah,
recharge with my being with adults fix and conversation
yeah,
fix, and then I would come home and be mommy, and then
yeah,
I was a better mommy,
right.
right? When I had that chance to do
Yes,
these other
yeah.
things.
So
And
between the aide and Mary, and then after my mother moved in, the first couple years she was there, she was pretty good with him too. She could get him into the living room and let's sit down, watch a cowboy movie or something and
Mm.
that kind of
Mhm.
thing. But I really
Mhm.
needed the aide to help him get in and out of the bathroom and that kind of stuff.
because my
I'm
mom was sitting there one time and she just saw him do this.
He took his wedding ring off and
You know,
put it in his
that
mouth.
was it. Rings came right
So
off.
Mary had to take that away from him.
Oh my word.
Yes.
I've honestly never seen anyone do that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of things, but not that.
My
Yes.
mom came in the living room, and thank God my grandmother hadn't come out of the bedroom, and he was stark naked.
Oh.
was like-
Well, hello there,
He's
dear.
watching TV and you think, oh, I could go to the bathroom for a few minutes. And then you come back
No.
and you don't know what you'll find.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he
Oh.
would tell me that his mother called. Now, she had died
Hmm.
in 1995 or something like that. Oh, mom
Oh.
called and she's coming for dinner. And I'd say, oh, that's nice. Well, and I just play right along with him. And,
Yep. And that's exactly what you're supposed to
yeah,
do.
And then
Yeah,
if
you
he'd
did
say, well,
exactly the right thing.
when is my mother coming? I thought she was coming for dinner. Oh, I forgot to tell you, she called and she has a really bad headache. So she won't be here
Mm,
tonight, but she'll try to come later,
mhm,
And so that would appease him and he would just be
mhm.
happy about it.
Yeah.
And
But
after a while, I think he got to the point where I'd say to him, are you worried about anything? No, no, I'm fine. Are you afraid? No, no. So that was a comfort to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was there.
It's hard when you see it's so hard when you see the deterioration, but then it makes it easier
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
have somebody who's deteriorated, but into a happy place.
right, right,
There
right.
are so many who deteriorate into fear,
Yes,
and I am so grateful that your husband didn't have that fear.
right,
Oh, he
right.
got angry, but you know,
Yeah, he'd get angry
Yeah.
he
sometimes.
get
Well,
frustrated. I think
he
that's
had
more the
some
point.
pain. There was some pain, so he'd get these muscle
Mm,
spasms, and he'd be in pain, and
mhm,
then he'd get frustrated
Or he just didn't
with
understand
mhm.
what was going on.
what was going on,
You
right?
know,
But God was so faithful, when you look back and you see
yeah,
how faithful God
absolutely.
was. We didn't
Yeah.
always appreciate it at the time,
No,
but we
no,
realized now
absolutely.
how faithful He was in providing for us so many ways.
As humans, we're so short-sighted, aren't we? We are
Yeah,
just so finite, and
yeah,
God's view of things is so much
yeah,
longer. I
yes,
mean, eternally longer than
yeah,
ours.
Oh, I know that
So,
those contracts fell through because God had a plan.
yes,
absolutely.
He had a
yes,
plan, and
yeah.
Yep.
I just thought it was so ironic that my grandma was like, "No, I'm fine. I don't want to live there," and then she had to live there.
Yeah.
And
And then
I,
the first aide that we had stayed with us for almost the
I
whole
yeah,
time we were in, that we needed,
Mm,
in
that we were
Florida.
ready to move to Cincinnati.
Yeah,
And it was such a blessing.
mm,
We didn't even realize that till we got to
yeah.
Cincinnati and we were getting new aides every couple of weeks. But she stayed
mhm,
with us this whole time, and the consistency of that was not only good for me and for my husband, but for Christina too.
Oh,
It was
absolutely.
huge for her.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, the one thing that they never asked me to do, and I told my mom I don't think so, and my dad would get very angry with me. So if the aide hadn't arrived in time, and
Mhm,
Josh would call, or I come home, and usually he had to use the restroom pretty soon after he got off the bus. And when I would even attempt to help, it was like he just absolutely got so angry with me. And I said,
oh,
"Mom, I
wow.
really don't think I can do this."
Well, I think he
And
was
just,
cognizant enough to know that his daughter did not belong in the bathroom when he was going
yeah,
to the bathroom.
yeah.
Fair.
Yes.
Very fair.
And so Josh
He
Yeah.
would,
didn't know how to express that, but he knew this is not right for her to
yeah.
be here.
And so Josh would say to me, and at that point he was home because he was disabled at that point, and so he would just say to me, "If the bus is coming home, I'll come next door and help him, but you're
Mhm.
not to help him." I said, "I just can't do
Oh,
this.
wow.
I
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
he
the
would let
I
Josh.
can't."
Didn't want Mary to help him.
I
He
mean,
did
he would
that.
still get upset with Josh, but it wasn't like he would get really,
Yeah.
really
Well,
upset with
he
me.
couldn't
Yeah.
express to you that this
No,
is okay for my daughter to be in here.
Right, right.
Josh
Yeah.
We've
says, "I
met
don't like
Josh.
this."
We love Josh here.
Oh, my
In this
mother
space,
said,
we love
We
Josh.
do. We
my
certainly.
Mhm.
my mother has said there would have been times where we literally at the house in Cincinnati would have called the paramedics if Josh hadn't been there. Because
Yeah.
my mom could literally say, "Josh, I need you at 3 o'clock in the morning." I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
And he would
Yeah.
come through and he said, "Hey, Chucky," used to call him. Only person I could get away with calling him Chucky. "Hey, Chucky, how you doing? Let's get you off this bathroom." And he come in just smiling and everything. And he's a big, tall guy, and he would help him and get him in the chair. And my mom's, I don't know what we would have done without him.
Because sometimes he
Yeah.
would get on the commode and then he couldn't get up
Yeah.
too often.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Commodes are confusing little things, aren't they? It's a chair, but not.
Yeah.
Like, do you go? Do you not go? What are the rules?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you guys are trying to get through a difficult year, don't do it by yourself.
Yeah, no.
Don't
We
don't do
had
it
our
by yourself.
family. They brought food. One lady came and helped me unpack my kitchen and put all the kitchen things away. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Church family was so amazing too,
Yeah.
and neighbors, and it was you know, you don't want to do it alone.
Because too
Absolutely.
often we sit there in our lives and we go, we're fine. Well, we're falling apart inside.
Falling apart.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
we're not
you're
giving
exactly
people
right.
the opportunity to help.
yeah.
When I talk to people about falling apart and they're like, but I don't want to bother people. I don't want
Yes.
to annoy people with
Yeah.
this one did that. Okay. She probably has no idea what you're talking about, right?
She does.
Oh gosh.
But I mean, what I say to them is like, okay, if your best friend was going through this and they didn't ask you for help, would you get mad at them? Well, of course. Give your friend a chance to be your best friend.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
And that's something that I still have a hard time with.
Yes.
But I have to remember, if my best friend was going through this, I'd be mad if they didn't
Yes.
ask me for help.
Yes. And
So I
somebody
need to give them the chance to be the best friend.
said to me one time, "You're denying me a blessing."
Yes, I've heard that too.
I was
I've
puzzled.
heard that too.
And I want to help you and get blessed myself. So
So let me be selfish and help you.
The only time I get frustrated having to ask for help is when my fibromyalgia comes in.
Yeah.
And I will sit there going, I don't want to ask for help. And my husband said, you're hurting. Why are you doing this? Because I don't want to ask for help. You know, like when I hurt whatever I did to my foot, which I have no idea, a couple months ago when I did it.
Yeah.
And I literally was screaming. I couldn't even put my foot down. And my mother's having to help me get my pants on because I don't know what I did. And I kept apologizing. I'm sorry. And she says, stop apologizing. So I will ask for help. But when it comes to my fibromyalgia and I have to ask for help, that's where I don't want to bother anybody for some reason.
Like right now, I look like I'm in perfect health and life is good. My lower back is killing me to no end.
Oh, wow.
Well, you've been doing a lot of moving.
No, I haven't.
You haven't? Okay.
99% of it. Crystal's been a trooper, let me tell you.
Well, and then when you have something happen with your car, that's stressful.
Yes. You probably
Crystal has not been a trooper.
Probably jerked your back a little bit when you had that.
Actually, yeah, once or twice I did lift things and I shouldn't have. And
yes.
Well, I'll give you that.
Any bump with something like you had with the car probably triggered a little bit of something.
Oh, I can't believe I did that. Anyway, ladies, thank you so much for sharing about your very terrible, awful, bad year. And I need to change the title to this to Mary's terrible, awful, very bad year.
Yes.
But thank you though for the reminder that. Well, thank you. Thanks for the reminders that we need to lean on our communities, right? Whether they are in person here or if they're here with our friends from Cincinnati, Ohio. I know you don't live in Cincinnati, but our friends in Ohio and here in Saskatchewan. And can you imagine like 2 years ago, would you have ever said, yeah, I'm going to have a friend who lives way up north in Saskatchewan?
No. But I wish I had. I mean, I just think of the difference. I will never live my life without connection. It's a need. It's not a want. It's something I need.
Right.
And it's something that my mom has said ever since you've started to connect, because our channel is all the monetization goes to her. I just need it for the connection. That's all I want it for. Yeah. But if somebody's coming on and saying, I feel lonely, I don't want anybody to feel lonely. They don't need to feel lonely anymore. There's so many amazing communities that are being built on YouTube for the main purpose that people do not have to be by themselves anymore.
That's right. Yeah. And there's people I never would have thought I'd be friends with. Like, I may not go on their channel because I don't necessarily agree with what they're saying, but that doesn't mean I don't love the person.
Right.
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 I will be there for that person anytime they need.
Right.
And, you know, like, I will pray for them. I will bless them. I will do whatever I can from my distance. And sometimes that's the only thing you can do, but being there to listen to somebody,
Yes.
you know, and that just having that listener is so
Yes.
important.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Finding common ground first. Let's shelve the stuff that we're going to disagree with. Let's find common ground first.
Exactly. That's exactly
You know,
right.
but the biggest lesson that I could say about 2013 is God had us through that entire year. He had a plan and a purpose going from 2009 we didn't know about. 5 years later to say, I have a plan for you to be right here in this place that I found on I think it was Craigslist. That they listed it.
Yes.
It was just and I was going through it and it just happened to find it. And, you know, we had to get voted in there and everything. And God knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And even when I walked,
our house that my husband and I had been in would not have worked for Nana.
No.
Because of her disabilities.
Yeah.
She needed a bathroom like was in the next door to you.
Right. Yeah.
And I walked out of my job thinking, you're asking me to leave? Do you know, Lord, what you're doing?
Exactly.
No,
God,
Mary, I need
know
you to leave.
Have we met?
He knew what was ahead for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
didn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
But guys, if you're going through a difficult time, stay connected somewhere, somehow. Do not try to do it by yourself. Don't suffer in silence. It's my biggest lesson from 2013.
Email me if you want me to get in touch with Mary for you or Mary's mom for you. I can absolutely connect you. I mean, truly be there for each other, love each other, and let us love you too.
Yes.
I mean, it's a blessing for us to be able to be there for you. So don't be afraid to ask.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. You're very welcome.
All
and
right.
I'm making Crystal cry. All righty, ladies. I will see you again, and I will see everybody else tomorrow. We will be doing a prayer devotional, and that's what's up for Fridays. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
We come from different paths, but we're not alone. Carrying stories in the shadows, aching to be shown. Through the pain and healing, together we will rise. With every open heart, we see through clearer eyes. You are my brother, my sister, my friend. In this space, the broken pieces mend. No hate, just love and hands to hold. A place where every soul is bold. I'm my brother's keeper, I'm my sister's guide. Standing here together with nothing left to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame, we're the healers of the heart.
Some come with scars, some come with dreams. In this circle, we're more than what we seem. No judgment here, just voices to be heard. Through laughter, through the tears, we find every word.
I'm my brother's keeper, I'm my sister's guide. Standing here together with nothing left to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame, we're the healers of the heart. walls will light the way.
No one here has to face it alone today.
No one here has to face it alone today.
We're stronger as we stand, hand in hand. We're stronger as we stand,
Hand in hand.
with love in our hearts we heal this land. With love in our hearts we heal this land.
I'm my brother's keeper. I'm my sister's guide. Together we'll find peace. No need to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart. We're keepers of the flame. We're the healers of the heart.
I'm my brother's keeper. I'm my sister's guide.
Our sister's guide.
Together we'll find peace. No need to hide. We lift each other up when the world feels torn apart.
Well,
We're keepers of the flame. We're the healers of the heart.
we're keepers of the flame. We're the healers of the heart.